4 times, Israel's army tried to take the town. 4 times, it was thrown back. Hezbollah has released the footage: burning bulldozers, a wrecked armoured carrier, fighters standing over the metal they turned to scrap. At the gates of Haddatha, the most feared army in the region keeps losing. Hezbollah has released new battlefield footage claiming to show intense close-quarter combat against Israeli forces during repeated attempts to advance into the southern Lebanese town of Haddatha. The footage published by Hezbollah's military media shows what the group describes as the 4th failed Israeli attempt between May 19th and May 20th to push into the central sector town under heavy air and artillery support. According to Hezbollah, Israeli forces launched the operation with extensive aerial surveillance and armoured support, including bulldozers and armoured personnel carriers, in an effort to establish control over the area. Hezbollah fighters responded with improvised explosive devices, rocket-propelled grenades, machine gun fire, and ambush tactics along the Haddatha-Rashif road. The released footage shows Hezbollah fighters preparing weapons inside command positions while tracking Israeli troop movements through surveillance feeds and field communications. During the operation, one Hezbollah field commander was heard encouraging fighters while describing the battlefield conditions.
The vision is not clear, and this is what is available. If you support God, He will support you, and keep your feet firm.
The footage also shows direct exchanges of fire between Hezbollah fighters and Israeli troops, with sounds of explosions, gunfire, and Israeli airstrikes audible throughout the recording. Hezbollah claimed its fighters successfully detonated explosive devices against advancing Israeli units during the clashes. One of the central moments in the video showed what Hezbollah said was a destroyed Israeli D-9 military bulldozer alongside a damaged armoured personnel carrier, engulfed in flames. The group claimed the vehicles were hit during the ambush as Israeli troops attempted to enter the outskirts of Haddatha. Standing beside the wreckage, one Hezbollah fighter delivered a message aimed directly at Israeli forces.
Look what we've done to it. These weak Israelis, they can't advance anymore. It is beneath our feet. You won't have any tanks left or bulldozers. We're continuing the statement of His Eminence, the martyred Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. You shall indeed return home with your heads held high. God willing, the entire land will be liberated.
The footage concludes with Hezbollah portraying the battle as another failed Israeli ground offensive in southern Lebanon.
A new defeat for the enemy at the gates of Haddatha. Despite all the fire and intelligence efforts in the 4 attempts to occupy it, Haddatha has become a new landmark for humiliating the enemy, and another village from the proud south that taught the people of the world a lesson in sacrifice, pride, and the rejection of injustice, no matter how costly the price.
The release comes amid intensifying clashes across southern Lebanon, where Israeli forces have expanded operations beyond the ceasefire yellow line, while Hezbollah continues drone, rocket, and anti-armor attacks, targeting Israeli troops and northern Israeli communities. Hezbollah and Israeli forces are locked in some of the fiercest fighting seen in southern Lebanon in recent weeks, with drone attacks, rocket fire, and close-quarters combat intensifying along multiple front lines near the border. On May 27th, Israel's health ministry announced that 24 new casualties had been recorded on the Lebanese front, as Hezbollah escalated attacks against Israeli troops and military vehicles operating in southern Lebanon. 11 IDF soldiers have already been killed in Hezbollah attacks since the ceasefire began. According to the ministry, the total number of injuries recorded by Israel since the start of the war with Iran has now reached 8,889. Israeli authorities also said 988 casualties have been reported specifically on the Lebanese front, while 573 wounded have been admitted to hospitals since the Lebanon ceasefire agreement took effect on April 17th. The figures come as Hezbollah stepped up drone attacks, rocket fire, and close-range engagements against Israeli troops operating near border towns in southern Lebanon. According to Al Mayadeen, some of the heaviest fighting was centered around the town of Zawtar al-Sharqiyya, where Hezbollah fighters were attempting to block Israeli advances after what the outlet described as intense Israeli preparatory bombardment involving artillery and airstrikes. Israeli officials said clashes intensified on the outskirts of the town as resistance fighters engaged advancing Israeli forces in sustained combat operations. According to field reports cited by the outlet, Hezbollah fighters used coordinated rocket barrages, artillery shells, Ababil drones, and close-quarters combat tactics against Israeli troops and armoured vehicles, attempting to move deeper into the area. The report added that the clashes inflicted heavy losses on Israeli personnel and equipment, while Hezbollah maintained defensive positions throughout the night on May 26th. Reports added that Hezbollah fighters were continuing operations along riverbanks and surrounding terrain, targeting Israeli supply routes, troop gatherings, and military vehicles with drones, rocket salvos, and artillery fire. Meanwhile, Hezbollah's military media released footage it said documented recent attacks on Israeli military assets in southern Lebanon. One video published by Hezbollah showed what it described as an Ababil FPV drone strike on an Israeli Merkava tank near the town of Markaba on May 22nd. Another clip, released on May 26th, showed a drone attack targeting an Israeli Humvee in Bint Jibil. Israeli media also reported that more than 15 explosive drones launched by Hezbollah detonated inside northern Israel amid expanding Israeli ground operations. Hezbollah said it launched a rocket barrage targeting Israeli soldiers near the town of Zawtar al-Sharqiyya in southern Lebanon. The group also said it targeted a Merkava tank near the town using a drone. The latest escalation comes as Israeli forces attempt to push beyond the so-called Yellow Line in southern Lebanon, while Hezbollah increasingly relies on coordinated drone warfare and sustained attritional attacks to slow Israeli advances and raise the operational cost of the campaign. Crowds were already fleeing Beirut's southern suburbs before the morning was out, and sirens were blaring over the Lebanon border. Tehran has issued a warning, and Israel's campaign against Hezbollah may be entering a new phase. Saudi outlet Al-Haddatha has reported citing an anonymous Israeli source that Israel has reportedly attempted to target Hezbollah Secretary General Naim Qassem at least twice in recent weeks. The report emerged shortly after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced he had instructed the IDF to intensify attacks against the organization. Footage circulating on social media showed residents fleeing the Dahiyar district of Beirut following the escalation announcement. Washington signaled it would not stand in Israel's way. A senior American official, speaking at a briefing in Washington, said Hezbollah had ignored repeated requests to stop firing at Israel, including a recent ultimatum, and that Israel was not expected to simply absorb attacks on its troops and civilians. Iran moved quickly to warn Washington that any Israeli strike on Beirut or its southern suburbs would put the entire diplomatic track at serious risk. An Iranian official told Al Jazeera that such action could collapse ongoing negotiations being conducted through mediators in Doha, where talks linking the Strait of Hormuz, a Lebanon ceasefire, and the broader US-Iran war remain in progress. The warning placed Washington in a difficult position. Supporting Israeli military action against Hezbollah risks derailing the same negotiations it has been pursuing for weeks to end the Iran war and reopen the strait. Restraining Israel, meanwhile, means absorbing continued drone attacks that have now killed 10 IDF soldiers since the Lebanon ceasefire was announced. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir has already said plans for high-intensity fighting in the north have been approved. Netanyahu has now publicly ordered intensification. As Israel has reportedly tried to kill the Hezbollah leader twice already, the question is no longer whether escalation is coming. It is how far it goes.